So the homework for this week, there's just one discussion question, but it's going to take you a while to do the background on it. I'm asking you to read the story of Joseph in Genesis 37 through 50. That's 13 chapters. I'm not asking you to go through it with a fine-tooth comb, and I'm sure you're familiar with the story. So use your information, what you already know, and then you're going to also look at the account of Abigail and Nabal in 1 Samuel chapter 25. And as you look at those two accounts, I would like you to think through the challenging circumstances that each of them faced and which of those circumstances they could control and which ones they couldn't. How did they respond both to the circumstances and to other people in their lives? How were their words and actions a result of faith? And in what ways did God provide for them and intervene? Then maybe take an application of that for your own life. So there's a lot there. You don't have to answer all the questions. You will simply get 10 points for posting your own answer and 10 points for responding to another individual. I'm just asking you to look at it from a different lens than perhaps you've considered it before. And then as you're keeping your journal and you're continuing to use your heart journal, perhaps that safe zone emotions graph or the spectrum of emotions, I'd like you to think through observations of yourself, your own responses, and think about your goals, especially as it relates to helping others. How do you respond when others need help, when they ask for help? How do you respond when you need help? How do you ask for help? So that will be your journal entry for this week. For reading, the Mending the Soul textbook, chapter 2, is titled Abuse and a Perversion of the Image of God. You are welcome to create a discussion if you have questions or you want to start talking about some of the material that you're reading. I am not going to require that, but I would be happy to interact on that level or invite you to do that. And then also skim over the workbook on chapter 2 of the Mending the Soul workbook and look at some of the exercises there. I have found that the descriptions in the workbook are much more easy to understand and apply than what's in the book. The book is good for information, and then the workbook is good for application. And then also, if you would read through lesson 1 in Unbound, I'm not asking you to do the lesson. We'll do that in a future part of the study, but just to read through the material in chapter 1 and underline, highlight, take notes on what is helpful for you. This course is for you. First and foremost, it is for you. I'm simply looking over your shoulder as it relates to grades and holding you accountable. So what you put into this is what you're going to get out of it, and I want to provide you with some really good and helpful tools. There's a bonus if you want to memorize, begin memorizing Colossians 1, starting with verses 9 through 14. The Word of God is the one thing that you invest in here that will last for eternity, along with the people that you invest in. So it's very worthwhile. Next week, we'll talk about the theology of suffering, secular approaches to domestic abuse, seeing the way God does, and what kinds of responses we may have to suffering. So hang in there, doing a great job. I know this was a shorter lesson, but they'll get longer as we go into it, maybe a little bit shorter as we come out. Thanks for hanging with us. That was lesson 2, and we're on to lesson 3.